Welcome to the Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap Subversiv 6 that also included some great title fights for a fight to win. We're going to preview who's number one, which they're calling the return of Gondon Ryan. We're going to preview EUG III, their third event, and we're going to preview third Coast Grappling, the Underdogs, for $10,000, the 180-pound no-gi tournament. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined by co-host
Zach.
How you doing, Zach?
Pretty good.
It's 8:30 at night for us, and that's past Zach's bedtime, so it's going to be a real interesting show.
I have exactly 20 minutes before my bedtime starts, so...
The funny thing is you're not joking.
Yeah, I'm really not joking. I go to bed about... Well, no, I go to bed about 9:30 every day.
Yeah, I go to bed about 1 a.m., so...
Yeah.
So we're good still.
I am running very... we were mentioning this earlier in the show. I have my my push notification for my personal battery has come through that I am less than 5%.
It's going to be a fun show,
It's been a long day.
You're going to trials, though.
Yeah, at least for Saturday.
You're not going like...
No, I'm not going to compete. But
yeah, but like I booked the hotels finally because I was like, I need to do that, and then booked the hotels because it's now in Atlantic City. If you haven't heard, it moved from wherever it was in New Jersey to Atlantic City. There are now spectators. I'm amped. It's like $20 to go and watch ADCC Trials. I'm going to go...
Huge
it's gonna be
fucking day.
800 and like something competitors.
As of right now, it's not closed.
It closed. It closed October 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mo Jassam, the head organizer for ADCC 2022 and 2019, did an Instagram live today where he answered some questions. In my question was like, hey, when are we getting a competitors list? He's like, I'm going to get that out soon. Nice. So hopefully by next week's show, we will have an ADCC Trials for East Coast Trials competitor list. Apparently under 77 is like 200 people.
Wow.
Under 66, I think is 120. I think 88 or 99 is like in the 80s or 90s, and then he didn't say the heavyweights, but hopefully we'll get a list out in the next week. I am absolutely jazzed for it. I think about half the team is going up there. I'm going to go to the rules seminar on Friday. I think it's like 3 or 4 p.m. on Friday. I'll just take the day, go up there early, and see that. And, ask questions and learn the ADCC rules from the actual organizers and judges. I've talked to some other people that are going to be refereeing there. I'm jazzed for it. It should be just a fantastic weekend of watching, ADCC. They're shorter matches because it's trials. And I always forget the trials are like 3 and 3 minutes, 6-minute matches, and then finals are 8-minute matches. So, it should be wild, and I'm just excited for it.
So some of those brackets are 7 to 8 wins to win it.
Yeah. You're literally going to have a round of 256. Because you're beyond the round of 128. Like you're going to have matches in that like extra round that like you never see in tournaments.
Yep.
I actually can't think of a bracket that I have ever seen in a grappling or any.
Some of the early, like back in the day, when the only IBJJF tournaments that existed were Worlds and Pan Ams.
And there was no points or anything needed.
And there was no points in it yet. Yeah. So when you just could sign up, the like white, blue, purple brackets would get bonkers at like 60, 70 people in them.
Okay.
For some of the weight classes. But that's the biggest that I've ever seen was like, I think I had like a 60 once at white belt or something.
They get big now. I think we still have divisions of 100 something.
Oh, really? At those levels? For Worlds?
I don't know. I actually haven't looked at like a blue belt.
Maybe it's been
recently. A long time.
Maybe recently it's different. But I know like eventually at some point they when they opened up to the regionals, then those numbers went down a lot because a lot of people were like, okay, well,
there were other tournaments.
Yeah, there's another one that I can do that I feel big about. It's like a big organized Atlanta Open, and so the people that were on this coast might not go to like.
That was the only. It was more than one. Yeah,
they didn't want to go to LA, but at that time there was like 2 IBJJF tournaments in the U.S. and people.
You showed up for them.
You showed up for them.
So trials. Trials. There's literally one a year if you're North American that you can do. Like not even U.S. North America, Canada, Mexico. Yeah. Like you got one a year you can do, and then you have the second one later. I forget what Mo said, but the second one for West Coast is going to be. It's going to alternate with whatever. It's opposite of Sydney, so they're still trying to figure out like restrictions in Australia.
Yeah.
And so it will be opposite of whatever they can book for Australia. The U.S. one will be opposite of the day. And he gave 2 months, and it's going to be like one is going to get 1 month, the other is going to get one, but it's contingent on what they can get for Australia. Yeah. And then our Brazilian trials are going to be like it's going to be in the February. They're going to be the same month. It's going to be February 5th and like February 12th.
And Brazilian's technically South America.
Yeah, sorry. The Brazilian trials, which is always won by Brazilians.
Yeah, sure.
I think almost. I think there's maybe one non-Brazilian winner ever, but I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Could be wrong about that, but those are actually happening in the same month, which is wild because
Yeah.
like they're like a week apart or like 2 weeks apart, which is just it's been an interesting couple of years. So ADCC Trials news, look out. We are knee deep in ADCC coverage starting now. Looking at hotels for Vegas, probably going to book those like this week.
Yeah.
Tickets are live in, I think October 8th for people who bought tickets for 2019, and then the 9th for general public. So I'm getting my tickets for the 8th. I'm going to buy tickets because I got credentialed and bought tickets, and I was like, I'm keeping these tickets because I'm going.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably gonna buy like front row tickets because even if I get credentialed again, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because I'm amped and I'm so excited. I'm
Those are
so
gonna be
excited.
some pricey tickets this year.
Worth it,
Yeah, probably.
dude. The hotel for Vegas is gonna be like $1,000.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Yeah.
If it's not in US, I'm gonna go. Like this is a thing I'm gonna do every 2 years.
Yeah.
Because
that makes sense.
it was the wildest experience in 2019, and I'm like,
it's
cool.
only gonna get wilder.
And Rachel was like, yeah, we're going every. I was like, cool. My wife's cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm down.
Yeah, it's
We're
only
going.
going to get more bonkers every
And,
single
dude,
year
Vegas
too.
is just everything Mo has said about Vegas is just. We have the poster now for it, and
Yeah.
like everyone's amped about the poster. Like Gordon and Gav, they're like, oh, they're both doing it. Like, yeah, we've known that for a while, but it's still cool that everyone's finding out. So yeah, it's awesome. Mo talked about replacements for the super fight today, like who is going to face. Basically, like, look, if Gordon falls out, we're probably going to get Buchecha.
Yeah.
If Galval falls out, it's probably going to be Felipe Pena. That's what he said. So overall, cool news for ADCC.
Yeah.
I love ADCC. Let's move on. I don't think I have any other news this week, Zach. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
There's probably something we missed, but like
I'm sure this week's been past week was chaos for me.
this
so.
week has been chaos. Yeah, my house. You can't see behind the camera. There's about every single piece of camera gear that I own is operating in this basement, and then out. Any stand I have is out.
It looks like a tornado hit a little bit.
It does look a little bit like that. So let's move on to Subversiv 6. We're just going to talk about a couple matches. If you haven't watched a Subversiv before, they're wild tournaments. It's a team-on-team format, and I love how they run it because it is teams of 3. They've run teams of 3. They've run teams of 5. This is a team of 3. And what you do is you fight at the weight class. So you field a woman, you field a man at, I think, lightweight, and then a man at heavyweight. Mm-hmm. And then the teams bracket out, and then your heavyweight fights their heavyweight, your middleweight or whatever weight fights their middleweight, and your woman fights their woman. And it's the best 2 out of 3 in that team.
It's a great setup.
Moves on for the next one, so you don't get those weird, like significant weight mismatches. You get a couple of them based on like
you do in Polaris.
Yeah, based on your field, but it's less of the quintet style where it's
quintet. My bad.
Yeah, where a guy. Well, Polaris Squads runs them too now.
Polaris Squads does that too.
But it's less of the where you have like, oh cool, your featherweight's going against your super heavyweight. Like, I'm probably gonna know how that's gonna either.
Which there's merit to that too, at least for
fun.
like
They're
some
fun.
interesting.
But I do appreciate. For me, it's a lot more like not a coin flip, but just the matchups and the grappling on display is much more interesting to me. I love the mismatches.
You don't
get
get the weird things that happen that are entertaining, but you get jiu-jitsu doing you get people that are good at jiu-jitsu doing jiu-jitsu, and that's a
you get less of like the
watching.
weird highlights, but more of like just 2 guys at a similar weight, 2 women at a similar weight,
doing their
going
thing.
at it and doing their thing. And for me, it's a little bit more interesting. The quintet is great now and again.
A nice rule set for
it is.
Subversive.
I do like
shorter matches are it's wonderful. I love 6-minute rounds. I'll stand by that. I think 6-minute rounds at professional jiu-jitsu should happen way more.
I think 6 minutes is honestly especially a format like this, the best way to do it, just because all the matches we're going to talk about, we got consistent action even throughout the entirety of the event. We got we usually do the event recap at the end of this, but it's a unique rule set, so I like to talk about it at the beginning. You get a good feel for the match and the athletes are willing to go. You typically don't get as big of those like waiting periods in the matches where grapplers are just willing to go because you only have 6 minutes. In a 10-minute match or longer, you will have 3 or 4 minutes many times where someone's feeling each other out, they're waiting, they're conserving their gas tank. 6 minutes and you go to decision, there's no golden score, there's no outscoring. You have to submit or you have to soundly win a decision, and so you can't really waste the first couple minutes of the match kind of playing around, looking for something big. You have to come out aggressive, and I like that. I
like that too.
Overall, it made for a very, very fun.
And I think if you're honestly, I think if we're doing so not to stick on this rule set, but if you're doing a submission only decision based rule set, the fight to win style rule set,
Yeah.
which I think has its merits. But if you're doing that style, I think moving to a shorter round time makes a lot of sense, because we get a lot of, in submission only, you get a lot of like waiting, feeling it out, and you get this like 6 minutes of sort of dead space where people are often not really being aggressive because they don't want to blow their gas tank and then get subbed in the end of the match.
There's also not a huge incentive for a lot of that to
Right.
really let it all out.
And when you have
let it go.
points, now you have situations like, okay, I'm down 2 because I got taken down, I got to get that back, and so you have someone that's pushing the action a bit, and you have that to some degree because sweeps and takedowns count towards decision, but it's not standardized in a way that like drives action, I think. So if you have a sub-only rule set at 6 minutes, I think it's a lot more entertaining than at 10.
Yeah.
Personally.
And
We had some entertaining matches
and
here.
you definitely have exceptions to that rule,
Absolutely.
but overall I thought it ran very, very well, and I was
Yeah.
very pleased with the bracketing for this event.
Looked good.
Let's talk about the finals. There's some other matches that
There's some really good matches.
The whole event was fun. Enjoyed it.
Seth himself was on this match.
Yeah, he was in a couple. He
had a couple
they
matches.
got to the first round and they moved to the second round. So,
but watching his Instagram was really funny because he's so brutally honest about what he's feeling, and
he
like
posted what Carter sent, which is his son. Posted him basically like, my son is better at jiu-jitsu than me. Like, it was very fun to watch Seth sort of live tweeting his experience as a competitor on the event, not his event technically, but the event that Fight to Win and the crew was running on Team Fight to Win.
Yeah, it was entertaining to watch his stories, and he had some really good matches. I don't think we're going to talk too much about it because we're going to stick with the finals here.
No, we love Seth.
He had some pretty good matches.
Yeah.
But watching his Instagram and his matches at the same time was hysterical.
Yeah, it was great. Where do you want to start with the finals here?
Let's start at the top of how they're listed. So start with the female match, Paige Yvette and Montero.
Yep, I didn't know if you were going to get the first name.
I almost tried, and then I didn't.
Tamara takes this. Montero takes this via heel hook. She fought through some adversity here. Through the beginning half of the match in a real big way.
So she Yvette pulls guard initially, or no, Paige Yvette wins this one. Wait, no, by heel hook. Oh, I'm sorry. I have names backwards.
Because they both had, this confused me a couple times. There were a couple matches that were black on black rash guards and similar hairstyles, and I went, oh, I'm very confused here.
But so Montero pulls guard immediately, and then Yvette responds with a ton of pressure and forces a turnover. And as Yvette rolls through, and she started looking for this knee bar entanglement that she looked for a couple different times, and then ends up in this 50-50. And honestly, I was really impressed with her transitions from entanglement positions, which is something that people are really starting to focus on, and you could tell that was something that she was focusing on here, or has focused on in her game.
You could see that, like, typically what happens when we see less and less of it is people will roll through and go through different series of leg lock exchanges, but they'll lose the knee line, the person will pull out. Both women here, and specifically Montero, did a really good job of retaining the knee line and keeping it above to be able to continue to put pressure into submission offense, and like either the ankle lock or the heel hook here, she's able to roll through. She sort of finishes it in a rolling kind of way, but she makes the position static to finish, gets to the outside, and was it inside or outside? I think it was outside.
So the finishing, it was inside, but outside. It was outside. Sorry, it was outside.
Okay.
But the finishing mechanics in particular on this were really nice, and it's something that you're starting to see some of the people that are really still focused on leg locks do. She collected the heel with her hand.
Yeah.
And like what you're doing with this, that's a really intelligent jiu-jitsu, is it's not just holding onto the heel with your hand sort of in the center ball point. You grab the heel with the point of the heel in the center of your palm, and then turn your hand so that the blade of your palm is digging into the Achilles. And that's not because you want any like particular pressure on the Achilles. It doesn't actually do anything pain or submission wise, but what it does is the heel then starts acting like a grip that you would see mountain climbing or bouldering or something like that. You can
leverage against the pressure.
And so
of the
you're
heel.
pulling the leg forward. You're pulling the leg up and into your chest with this grip on the heel, and that not only it keeps the knee line pulled through, it keeps the knee pulled through, and also makes it really, really challenging to get the foot out. And then if you have that grip, you can use your elbow like you would for a normal heel hook and apply braking pressure while also maintaining control. And so it's just the mechanics on the finish here were new, not new necessarily. Like people have talked about this, but it's not something you see all the time.
Yeah,
it's I think the new right way to do it that not everyone's doing yet. It's a beautiful way to finish, and it was a really, really good attack.
You could tell she had a lot of control when she finished. It was not
so much control,
no ability to roll out or move, and it was a static, nice heel hook from that really good grip, and it was. I very much enjoyed it. I was surprised because Paige had been dominating the beginning section of the match there with really heavy pressure. So it's always cool to see someone come from a bottom position and be able to like sub their way out of that bad position. So it was great.
Yeah, agreed.
Next match we had Miha Perevic defeating, Jason Gomes defeating Miha Perevic via decision here. I had that listed wrong in the notes here.
Yeah. And so my notes on this one are handwritten because I did this during work. So bear with me as I try to read my own handwriting, which is super hard to do. But
I type all of my notes nowadays.
Yeah, I usually do.
Work,
but
I type all my notes because like I can't legally go back to like my hand. I'm not gonna hold in court.
Right.
So I type all my stuff in like in Notepad. So it's like that's what I wrote.
Yeah. So Perevic holds a front headlock for a while, and Gomez is basically doing nothing but defending for like a good chunk of the match. There's a lot of this like Gomez goes in for a takedown, Perevic stuffs it,
See,
and
I had Gomez on the offensive here for the entirety of the match. Like there was a little bit of offense by Perevic here, but Gomez consistently was working the offense and the takedown and the passing, consistently going towards the back.
I think I was just referring to like the very beginning of the match.
Oh, okay.
And then we have this throw by, and then that's what
opens up the sequence for Gomez.
Yes. Yeah. But the thing, like, the one thing that I really noticed, like technically speaking here, Gomez attempts an Uchimata like midway through, and Perevic defends.
Call him Miha.
Miha? Yeah, sorry.
Let's go Miha.
Miha.
He butchered his last name numerous times at this point. I'm like, let's go.
I'm gonna go with Miha. So Miha defends this in like textbook, but also with like a creative twist that you don't always see. And so Gomez is going in for the Uchimata and he plants his throw foot, and Miha steps outside of it, that's a standard way to defend. Drops his hips is another standard way to defend. But then he hits this like sacrifice throw off of it.
Off of like the whizzer.
He's got a whizzer, and so what he's doing with it though is, this is the kind of thing that if it goes wrong and you slip, you're just fucked. You're like you pull side mount.
Yeah.
Like it's not good. But what he does is he uses the whizzer to sort of bring Miha's shoulder down, and so that with that whizzer he's starting to twist Miha's upper torso, right, and he opens up his chest with this whizzer as he's dropping. And so Miha's doing this. Gomez
I was like, I think you mixed the names up here,
yeah,
Zach.
I told you, man. I'm running on low.
It was actually not a joke either. Zach really does go to sleep.
I really do. This is
literally 30 minutes from now, typically.
So sorry. Gomez attempted the Uchimata. Miha's defending it this way. Steps his foot to the outside, drops his hips down, starts rolling. But he starts this by like dropping his own shoulder that he has the whizzer on really, really hard. And this opens up Gomez's chest. And then what he does to finish this is he takes his free hand, the one that's not in the whizzer, and he plants it on Gomez's chest and then continues to push Gomez's chest up in the air as he twists down. And so he gives this like last little push to Gomez's shoulder to get the shoulder to roll all the way over, and that's why he's able to finish this throw in the way that he does. And it the beauty of this, like, what seems like maybe a small push, but what it's doing is it's preventing Gomez from dropping that shoulder down, which in dropping that shoulder down stops him from twisting. And if it stops himself from twisting, then he does that thing where you land in side control. And so it was a really nice, like, small touch that put a lot of power into the move and made it actually work. It was the most impressive thing that I saw in this match. Not that there weren't other impressive things, but
it was just super.
It was a really clean counter.
A counter that I have not seen used like that, if ever, like extremely rare. It's a very rare counter to that, especially in no-gi, where you have to do it off of like the limited grips that you do have of the overhook and the underhook. Just a really unique sequence.
Yeah.
But I mean, Miha had some moments in the match, But overall, Gomes was just on top of him, repeatedly looking for back control, repeatedly looking for,
Yep.
the armbar off the back and the try. Like, he just, and again, this one of the beauties of these shorter matches is Gomes just could continue to go, continue to drive. And towards the end of the match, it was very much in Gomes' corner of just, I've put up so much offense repeatedly that Miha has had to continuously defend. We've had some positional exchanges here and there. He's thrown up a little bit of offense, but the overwhelming offense of Jason Gomes here, just I think the match ended. It was a very clear decision, which, again, moves us to the next thing I love about Subversiv. It goes to the final match frequently.
Yeah.
So we had the final match. We had Legion 1 and Checkmat 1.
Yep.
And we have Sloan Clymer, who you've probably seen before on other Subversives and against Hassan Rita on Who's Number One. Got a really unique look, big, bulky guy with long hair and cornrows. Like, he's super unique looking in his like hairstyle choice, and so he stands out. And whenever I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Sloan.
Yeah.
We've seen him, we've covered him before. He takes on Elder Cruz, and again,
Yeah. So this was one. This is one where we were talking about the shorter match times. They actually did spend a lot of time on the feet, like more time than a lot of the other matches throughout the day. They spent probably 2.5 minutes hand fighting, which is not uncommon for Sloan's matches.
No, Sloan typically likes to come out, and he will sometimes, in rare occasions, like look to bulldozer guys, but he does like to feel out. Again, at the heavier weight classes, that is something that is more common, but he's not able to do it. Like, again, for the Hassan Rita match, that was the majority of the match. This match, there was a couple minutes of it, but then towards the end of the match, we had El Monstro just start to turn it up and start to really be the aggressor. He knew that Sloan was going to play a more tentative game.
Well, Sloan pulled guard, which was unexpected, I think, for him.
He's done that before. He did that versus Rita as well.
I didn't expect it in this match.
I didn't either, and I was curious because we know Elder Cruz is a phenomenal passer, but we also know Sloan is a really good bottom player and has a good inversion game too.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was trying. I think that it was very obvious that he was trying to go to that, and so he pulls guard, and he immediately is looking for a shin-to-shin entanglement situation. But Cruz does this really nice thing where as soon as Sloan starts to drop his legs, Cruz drops his weight down and his knee forward. And so what he does is he plants his knee on Sloan's thigh. And what that does is it prevents Sloan from getting his shin all the way around Cruz's knee,
because
and
you
also
can't rotate it.
because you can't rotate
the
through.
weight's on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can't get to the entanglement positions that you need. And Sloan was just it put the brakes on everything that he was doing, and it tripped him up. And there was enough momentum break there in that like tiny little movement to make it so that Cruz was then able to start really pressuring forward. He continued to use that pressure on the knee, and then he's able to move around the trapped leg, that thigh that he trapped down, for the pass. And it was one of those things that you can clearly go back, and if you watch from the beginning of this match and want to see how like one small defensive action can shift the momentum from, and not that like Sloan was about to finish the match, right? But it was a neutral momentum.
Yeah.
Sloan had an opportunity to attack, and so did Cruz. And it went from this opportunity where Sloan was starting to mount an offense to completely pausing any momentum that he had and shifting it dramatically in the other direction.
Yeah.
It was a small adjustment
and
for
that
Cruz.
that passing of the guard there, and then the settling on the top from El Monstro was just sort of, again, the beginning of the end. Monstro continued to put really heavy pressure on top, looking for some sub attempts, looking for some neck, looking for the arm a little bit here and there, but just consistently, even when they go back
Cruz
to the guard.
Cruz gets a second pass after this actually too. Yeah, I mean he was aggressively attacking those passes the whole time.
And again, you have a short match time.
Makes
tends
sense.
to facilitate, people when they do pass being more aggressive because they're looking, I may not be able to get past the guard again in a 6-minute match, especially because they spent some time on the feet. Like, Cruz knows that he has to go, and he gets to the guard. He is actually able to pass the open guard again, or the from a closed guard again. He's able to pass, and then I think clearly takes a decision and gives the victory. Any other pieces you want in this match?
No, that was it.
Really clearly, gets the decision for Cruz here, and then Checkmat wins 2-1. They are the new Subversiv champions.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
overall
Some good finals from there.
fun event. We also have some super fights
Yeah.
to talk about on the event because it, again, as always with Subversiv, they typically, unless it was the big 16 team Subversiv, they typically will run fight to win matches as well as Subversive matches to give the grapplers that are in the Subversive tournament a little bit of time between matches, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Because not having that time between matches is like super unfair because one team is gassed, the other team goes, and in that team format you're like, I just went, like I have to go again.
Yeah.
So having super fights between them gives a nice even break for both teams, or you know, for the multiple teams in the event. Where do you want to start with this one?
Let's start. I have at the top of my notes Tubby versus Pati Fontes.
Yeah, let's talk about this one.
So I think it was a good match. Actually, I thought about I almost never, and by almost never I mean I literally have never bet on a jiu-jitsu match. And I saw the odds published for this one and thought, that doesn't seem right to me.
What are the odds?
It had Pati up like in favor as a favorite by like 500.
No shit, really?
And I was like, that seems, at least the odds that I saw had Pati favorited by 500. And I was like, that seems really off to me. Maybe I should just like slap $10 down because I feel like I would have strongly thought that Tubby was going to take this match, and she did. She's looked really good lately.
She has,
and Patty's
really
a veteran, and like you can't rule her out. But I was like, that seems like a very widespread.
But Tubby has looked so good recently in all of her fight win matches, and he's number one, like consistently.
And
just
even when she's
showcasing.
lost, she's looked competitive and strong.
Yes, and she's strong, and that's the thing that consistently in the matchup that we saw Tubby leveraging like the strength. Unlike Fontes was extremely flexible, but Tubby gets like passes the guard, gets the mount here, and just imposes from mount on Fontes. And Fontes tries to use the goat hooks, tries to use her flexibility.
And I mean, even before that, Tubby had her on the run the whole time, right? Tubby was doing a lot more. So we've seen her playing with inversions to get the knee bars a lot. Like that's a thing that she's been doing a lot. And so I kind of expected Pati to be aware of that and coming into the match. And it's clear that she knew something like that was coming. She did a really nice job in the first attempt at this knee bar entanglement of like staying back, keeping the distance.
She kept her hips really low and back, and so Alacon could never either get underneath her or like get her knee established and pulled through her leg line.
Yeah. And so Pati was doing a really nice job defending that, but what Tubby was able to do off of this, she gets that entanglement so much, so we don't see this half of it. She turned him into sweeps twice. She turned this like leg entanglement attempt into a sweep by driving through.
We're seeing more and more and more. I actually taught it in one of my classes on a Friday a couple weeks ago, was like, hey, if you're in these positions in zone with leg and you can get your hand to the outside and basically stand up first. If you're the first person to stand up with their heel, you can sweep.
Yeah,
it's something that in the last really I've noticed it in the last year that we're seeing consistently at the highest levels that leg entanglement, I just stand up with their foot sweep, and there's probably a better name for it, like a tech up sweep is really what I call it.
That's what I usually call it. Yeah.
But we're seeing it more and more and more and more, and Tubby does a great job of going from the bottom, sweeping with that tech up sweep, has the heel, has the foot controlled, and then starts to move into her passing off of that sweep.
Yeah, and it's a really nice transition. It's a nice thing to see for Tubby in terms of game development, and I know that she's done this before, but to see it twice in a row done with very clean technique on both, it was very intentional. Sometimes you see these tech up sweeps from these leg entanglements, and it feels, and I don't think that they are always incidental, but they feel a little incidental. Whereas here, it was clear that she checked down and realized that the entanglement wasn't coming. Pati was playing defensive. This is my next thing to do. In a very intelligent jiu-jitsu kind of way. And so she does a really nice job hitting these sweeps. And the second time she hits this sweep is when she's able to ride up into mount and then just dominates from mount for about a minute and a half.
Was it that short?
I thought it might have been longer.
I thought it was longer.
It was
than
at least a minute and a half.
Okay.
At the end of the match, she ends in mount. It might have been longer.
Yeah, I thought it was longer than that. I could be incorrect, but I remember watching this and going, "Wow, Tubby is really establishing a high match." Yeah. It is somewhat uncommon to see in the women's matches, especially with the lower weight classes, because Pati, and she did it numerous times in this match, she's so good and so flexible in her hips that she's able to you physically a lot of times can't keep the women at the smaller weight classes in those positions because they can bend underneath you in ways that you physically cannot stifle them. But Tubby did something the way that she had her body position, she was low enough on the chest and on the stomach where Fontes could never really get her her stomach and hips up high enough to get her legs in front. And Alacon did a really good job. She was super diligent in keeping her elbow really pinched to her body. So whenever Fontes would actually get the leg in front to like goat hook her and bring her over from the bottom of mount, the heel would hit Tubby's elbow, and Tubby would be able to fence it off with her elbow. She didn't have to reach back and ever hand fight it. But that doesn't work at all, because if you leave your elbow out even the slightest bit, because somebody only needs maybe 2.5 inches to get their heel
Especially
in.
someone like Pati.
Yeah. And so Tubby, you watched her be super, super diligent from that position of like never overextending forward or backwards, and then keeping the elbow pinched into her body like
and of
super
course
diligently.
that's sacrificing submission attacks too. But at this point for Tubby, you would want to sacrifice your submission attacks in order to maintain that mount position, because you've won the match.
Yeah.
If you get a submission, that would be great, but you've won the match if you just maintain that position for long enough. And so it makes it's intelligent jiu-jitsu on her end, and
and it's also something that people that you don't see a whole lot. People are when somebody's actively fighting for that goat hook in the way that Fontes was fighting for it, like it takes a little slip up, and you almost always see it. It's something that like they go for that 4 or 5 times. Eventually, one of them's gonna hit. And to see Fontes go for it a couple times and Alequin just stay so diligent with that was kind of neat, because it is a rarity that that actually the defensive person on top will be able to stay that diligent with that move. So it's cool. Yeah. So fun match. Tubby Alequin wins that via decision. Which one do you want to move on to next?
Pinheiro versus Diaz, maybe?
Let's talk about that. Lucas Pinheiro versus Pedro Dias. Pedro Dias takes this one via decision. This is, I'm not sure what weight class this was at. I don't think it was a rooster weight. I think it was at light feather, or like
I'm not sure.
maybe bantam weight, because both these guys tend to play at that bantam weight. I know that I'm curious to see where Pedro Dias is going to fall in the rankings after this match, because Pinheiro is ranked super high. I know he's moved down a slot or 2 since the Mikey match. I don't know what he looks like since Nogi Worlds. I haven't got a chance to look at the new flow rankings since then. But this is a big win in the Ghee for Pedro Dias.
Yeah, it is.
For some reason, I think these guys have gone back and forth in the past. I could be wrong about that, but
I'm not sure.
Again, to take it so recently after we've seen Pinheiro, on who's number 1, bodes well for his spot in the rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. And the match itself, Diaz, it was a pretty slow match to start. It was a lot more time on the feet than we like to see in these shorter matches. A lot of hand fighting, a lot of up down with nothing.
Yeah,
no one exactly mounting an offense, but then eventually, sort of later in the match, Diaz hits this really, really beautiful sweep from collar, like far collar and same side leg, and so he's reached his cross collar, far collar, damn.
Collar and. How you doing, Zach?
Not good. I'm not good. I am not doing great. I forgot the words cross collar, which are things that I say literally every day of my life. So he's got a cross collar and then the knee grip, the pant grip on the knee.
Yeah, the inside pant grip.
Yeah, and this is a sweep that I like to hit from half guard a lot, but he does it from full guard. It's sort of a heel on the hip that is opposite the side that you have control. So if I have your right collar and right pant leg, I'm putting my heel on your left hip. And then you sort of just turn the hips out as you go. And he was able to do that and then come up with it, come up to his own base with it and drive through to finish the sweep. Is a really, really nice.
And I love it because the camera angle is pointed right between them, so you can see the gripping sequence happen and the foot position happen, and then the sweep get kicked through by Diaz here. And it was just a super technical, very, very nice gripping sequence here that led for a little bit of the off balancing on top as Pinheiro was overextended trying to pass through the guard. Diaz gets underneath him, gets that grip, turns the corner, really gets his hips and like his base outside of the center line of Pinheiro to tech up on it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about finishing the sweep that way, or finish the sweep with these grips, is that in the end, like once you get your opponent's butt on the mat, now I have the knee.
I have that great inside pant grip that's most people are not going to let you just willingly have for any length of time, and it's such a powerful grip to like work off of.
And the way that you would deal with getting swept like that, if you have control of your knee, is to bring that knee back, right, and you got to get that knee on the ground in order to move your hips a little bit. And if I'm just holding it, keeping it up off the ground, you can stabilize on top really nicely, and that's what Diaz ends up doing here. Mm-hmm. Stabilizes on top, gets the cleanest technical thing in the entire match, I think, and then ends up taking the match I think probably largely based off of that sweep and then some dominance on top afterward. But yeah,
aggressive that sweep and then a more aggressive pressure in the match. It was a close match. A lot of it we did see a little bit in the beginning of the match of that wrestling and really a little less playing in the edges that we usually see from Pinheiro. But we saw some shot and reshot from both guys. But Diaz and Pinheiro were very, very wise to that like wrestling game on the feet and the gi, and it's both guys were not having a ton of success on those outside shooting. So yeah, again a close match, but very reasonable to give it to Pedro Diaz on this one.
Yeah, I think
so very curious to see if this will change his ranking. Again, it was in the gi, and they've not updated the gi rankings in the recent past, or at least from my understanding. Last time I looked, it had been a while since they've been updated. I don't know if this will change the no gi rankings. I don't think it should, but
no, it shouldn't.
Who knows? Next match, let's talk about Andre Pontes defeating Ron Henderson for the featherweight gi title in Fight to Win. He takes that via decision, and he is now the new champion.
Yeah. This is a fine match. I think he ends up taking it on a Kimura. He gets towards the end of the match and then just hangs on to, toughs it out for a long time.
Good section of time for the match. Like he's tight on it.
Yeah.
He's never able to fully break the grip out and turn the angle on it, but he has Ron Henderson down and postured into it where he's he can't ever really escape out of that Kimura and start putting up his own offense. And that is where the match ends. And it sat there for a minute or so, or 2 minutes.
But it was clearly a war of attrition kind of situation. I think a lot of us that end up in these. I end up in these Kimuras all the time because of the way that I pass guard, and there's sometimes when a lot of times for me I'm passing and I'm on top and I'm comfortable just kind of hanging out there, right? But I know that if I move and try to fight against it, I'm gonna lose, right? I'm gonna lose that fight, and this was kind of those situations where, yes, I can. It's a war of attrition. I can hang here for a long time, but if I release my grip that I'm using to defend this Kimura in any way, it's over.
I get Kimura, or I get swept over with that Kimura.
Right, yeah, something like that, right? And I think that's what was really going on here. And if this was a unlimited time match, this ends up being a submission win, not a decision win.
Right.
If this was a 10-minute match, maybe it's a submission win, not a decision win. If it's a 15-minute match, probably, right? You can only go so long holding that position, right? But it's a 6-minute match, and so we see the end. But it makes sense. It was a tight lock and a good way to award someone a match, right?
Yeah, it was. Again, it's cool to see Pontes take the featherweight title off of this. Next match we're going to talk about is Baret Yoshida defeating I'm going to mess up his name, Takahito Yoshida.
I'm going with Yoshida and Takahito because I can say those two names and they're different enough.
My text is too small to be able to read this well. Yoshioka.
Yoshida comes out with the flying triangle on this match, which I have a lot of respect for. He doesn't hit it, but he jumps it.
He does.
Which,
again,
that's awesome.
Yoshida gets the fight to win rule set. And that's why he's the champion. He's been the champion. He's lost it. He's taken it back. He's had the Masters Plus champion. Baret Yoshida on fight to win, that dude gets it. He's had a ton of matches. He's always exciting. If he's not trying to back crucifix guys, he's putting up great sweeping offense here. There's really only one thing I want to talk about in this match, other than the consistent offense from Yoshida here was a really, really nice variation of a Tominage sweep, sort of off the butterfly guard that he transitions from a De La Riva. Yoshida has the cross side collar and the same side sleeve, but behind the elbow grip on the sleeve. And then he switches from an outside De La Riva on the side of where there's no gripping to bringing both his legs in the butterfly, then both his feet onto the hips as Takahito squares up and tries to address it and address the De La Riva square. Yoshida whiffs up, brings his arms down, and then basically does a straight up Tominage off of that grip sequence. And it's so rare to see someone hit a same side grip sequence Tominage like that.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too that a lot of times you don't see that because the other person can use their free hand to sort of balance out. And the issue here was that Takahito had Yoshida's collar.
He had
grip.
the same side.
He had the same side collar with his free hand.
Yeah.
And instead of, and it's not like he made a real mistake here, right? No. Because what he was trying to do was base down and square up to deal with the De La Riva. And so Yoshida just timed this really, really beautifully, where Takahito he had that grip and he was sort of pulling it down, but that grip's already in his hand. So as he starts coming forward, instead of releasing that grip and trying to post with his hand and then sort of do the cartwheel escape that you can do from here with this grip sequence, it's natural for him to sort of try to press down into that. And what he ends up doing is pressing that collar grip down into Yoshida's neck,
which Yoshida uses as momentum in ways.
Right.
The other thing I thought was really interesting, that I couldn't tell if it happened, but what I think was Yoshida also had the inside point of that elbow. So Takahito couldn't pull that arm out effectively because Yoshida's hand was actually on the inside of the way as well.
Yep.
So he had like the twofer. Like you can't pull out of that. So you have to push forward on it because there isn't an option to get out because your elbow is trapped and now you're leaning on it, so your elbow can't even like change position to break that grip. It was just it was such like a little thing in the match, but it's just so rare to see it off the De La Riva and then the transition to the same side, same collar, same side arm, same side collar. Like to hit it is just. It was a really, really cool sequence.
Yeah,
and it's, again, one of the reasons we love Baret Yoshida, because he always has these little, really interesting sequences where he's able to get stuff going like that.
Yeah, it
and
was a really
showcase
cool sweep.
Really neat jiu-jitsu. I love Yoshida's matches because almost every single Baret Yoshida match, you watch something that's just like, that's really neat. Like, that's beautiful, and it's really neat. Like, I will never forget. I got to find it some way because I talk about it all the time. He hit the crucifix entry from, like, the open guard, where he's, like, in open guard. This isn't this match. I'm sorry when I'm talking about it, but he was in the open guard, and then he just enters from, like, someone trying to pass, and then he's just on their back in the crucifix. And I went, okay, there's, like, you, like, skipped, like, 2 steps in, but it watched, and Yoshida just has these beautiful things that he's the only one that really does.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And it's always a pleasure to see Baret Yoshida on the match. Again, love that he's still the champion. I think it's listed as a Masters title, maybe a Masters Plus title. I don't remember, but Yoshida, will always be the champion. Heavyweight Ghee Masters title match. We had Omar Saba versus Stefan Martinez. Steph Martinez wins that via guillotine to take the title from Omar Saba. Just a straight up, like, OG guillotine from the guard in the gi too, which is not the easiest thing to hit, but gets the head low, does it off of like a front headlock, sits underneath it, and just standard bread and butter guillotine.
Yeah, he was starting to pass.
Yeah,
got the turnover off the pass, and instead of a lot of these big weights, I feel
big weights,
big boys,
your
big
people,
boys,
your people,
my peoples. Like I don't know, I personally, with some of these bigger guys, it just gets really hard to try to take the back. There's a lot of strength involved and a lot of sitting, and then
there's also a lot to move. You're big people. There's a lot of person to move around to get the back there.
And so my strategy ends up always being to just try to get to side control, sort of T-top or tip people over, and use various means to do that because it's a little easier than taking the back for me. Although taking the back's probably better. But a lot of other people move to the front headlock in these situations, and that's what he does here. And that's what Steven Martinez does. He moves around to the front headlock and then
just goes to the guard.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Omar sits his back up a little bit while in the guillotine, and and Martinez sits to the guard.
And that's it. That's the match.
Yeah,
win
that's
the title.
match.
So I have nothing else. Again, other great matches on the card. Just don't. I don't want to. You've already eaten a ton of time in the episode. I don't want to go through all of it. Great match, fun card, all up on Flow Grappling. Hopefully they'll part it out individual matches, and hopefully I gotta say it. I'm really getting annoyed with the Little Caesars Pizza advertisement during the matches.
There was a period of time in the
Tubby
versus Pati match where Tubby actually hits a sweep during one of those times, and it's impossible to see.
Yeah,
like even on my big computer monitor. It was impossible to get a good view.
It's infuriating
on what happens.
It's infuriating.
Because 4/5 of the screen are taken up for a fucking Little Caesars advertisement. And you know what the worst part about it was? So I'm watching this Tubby match, and my wife, my Flow Grappling account gets paid out of our joint account because it's an annual thing, and she doesn't know what it is automatically, right? She doesn't watch Flow Grappling. So I'm watching this fucking match, and as I'm seeing this Little Caesars match pop up, my wife says, "Hey, what's this $150 Flow Grappling account?" charge on our card. And I go, oh, that's the thing that I'm paying to watch advertisements on.
Yeah.
That's the $150 that I just paid so that I can watch 4/5 of my screen be an advertisement during the interesting content that I pay for.
Yep.
So I can't see the thing that I'm watching this to see, the interesting part of the thing that I want to see.
Yep.
It's getting really, really old.
I was pretty. It happened repeatedly throughout this event, and I was just infuriated because it's happening during matches now, more often during matches, and like it takes up more than half of the screen.
You know,
the match goes to literally a fifth because everything pulls in, everything gets quartered. And then there's borders inside, so everything gets smaller. And so it's like you're dealing with a footage now that is almost a fifth, a little more than a fourth, a little less than a fourth of your screen. And if you're watching this on a phone, good luck. I'm watching it on a 65-inch TV, and it was still like unwatchable while it was happening. And it's
fucking ridiculous.
Just infuriating for a premium service.
Why? And you can put it on during the walkouts, during whatever shit that I don't need to be watching closely. Like, don't do it during the actual match.
I don't want to belabor this too much, but it is infuriating.
I want to belabor it.
And I hope that it changes because it's horrible to watch. It would upset me during viewing repeatedly every single match.
I have defended Flow by saying, well, it's not what we used to have because people don't remember how bad it used to be. And at least now we have a place where it's organized. I'm getting really annoyed with them lately, though.
Yeah.
This is that. And then on top of that, I've noticed that anytime that there's a Who's Number One coming up, whatever event happened the weekend before gets not just no advertising attention, but also why isn't it cut up like they normally do now?
There's no match footage cut up.
It's hopefully a 6 hour long.
6 hours, 18 minutes.
And whenever there's a Who's Number One coming up, this happens.
Yeah.
Which is also a little aggravating.
It's frustrating. So, what do you want to preview next? Do you want to move right into Who's Number One, or do you want to preview EUG, or you want to preview Third Coast?
I think Who's Number One's the biggest event, so we should do that.
So let's move on to covering Who's Number One, Return of Gondon Ryan, which is kind of funny because it's an exhibition match that Gondon Ryan's having versus Philip Rowe, who is a UFC, I think, welterweight. I think he's middleweight. I think he's welterweight. This is a weird match. Let's talk about the rules of this match.
Yep.
It is like a 15-minute match that's gonna keep going no matter what happens. So for submission, so it doesn't. It's like a weird. It's a match that Gondon Ryan will use to showcase uninstructional that he has filmed or is intending to film.
No, it's filmed. It'll come out a week and a half later.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a submission one because he wants to be able to hit that submission a number of times.
Or it's going to be a defense one where he's going to let Philip Rowe get super deep on stuff and defend it.
Maybe.
Maybe. That's what it is. It'll be cool to see Gondon Ryan back. I'm sure that honestly it will be super interesting to watch him do.
I wish that this was called the Re-Return or maybe
Return Again.
Re-Return Again. Is this his third out of retirement? Show?
I think third. I think this is at
third
least
time?
his second because he had the Jeep thing post-retirement, and then he had.
This is his third return.
I think it's his second actual retirement.
Well, yeah, because he had the joke retirement where he said that he retired.
I include that.
And then he had the first real retirement where he did take 6 months off.
The re-returning of the retirement. Again, as much as he roasts people the wrong way, he is a fantastic.
He's the best grappler in the world.
Yeah,
but
hands down.
I have noticed that he looks a little. It looks like his recovery has been mysteriously less good over the past couple months. He's not as ripped as he was at one time. It's probably that he had to stop cycling antibiotics because of the gut thing. So
maybe. There's that. So, again, I'm happy to see him back. Again, no problem. Everything up the side. I do like watching the guy compete.
It's going to be a spectacle.
It will definitely be a spectacle. Main event, we have Bia Mesquita versus Luisa Montero for the 135-pound bantamweight title. This is fire. I'm excited about this.
I love
seeing
both
Luisa.
of these two women.
Love seeing Bia.
Yeah. Yes.
I do not know how this is going to go. I'm going to lean Bia.
I lean Bia, and also I'm sort of a Bia Mesquita fanboy. I love her game, and so I always have to I'm always gonna pick her, even if I don't. You know.
Again, I see her path. She's mean.
She's mean.
She's
I love it.
She's really, really mean. And we saw her, I think, in last on BJJ Bet or one of the two. BJJ Stars, I think it was BJJ Bet.
Yeah.
Just come out super mean. And it was like, all right, well.
The last one that I remember her on was BJJ Bet, and she looked fire.
Yeah. She was just aggressive, and it's awesome to see that. I love watching it. Luis Montero, definitely one that can like hang and handle it.
Yeah, she's strong as shit, which is why this is such a good match. Like, Bia comes out aggressive, fast, and gunning for shit. Luisa is slower and technical, but grindy as shit. And like, if you're gonna have someone that's gonna come out super aggressive, and then pairing them up with someone that's slow and grindy and can try to set, what you end up with is this really nice play that I like to see in jiu-jitsu a lot of times, where whoever sets the pace is gonna win the match, right?
Yeah.
And is Luisa gonna be able to slow Bia down, or is Bia gonna set the pace very fast and then outpace Luisa? Like that makes for interesting
dichotomy
matches.
is very interesting. I'm curious to see if we'll see Bia go to the toe holds and the leg locks. We've seen Montero recently have a little bit of problem with the toe holds, but again, we've seen Bia go for foot locks before, but it's never really been her forte and her bread and butter. Although we are seeing her continue to develop her game, and I'm curious to see if she comes out really aggressive. Is it her who's number one debut?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember. They've run enough of them now. I don't remember, and that's not as much of a factor. Super curious match. It'll be. I think it will be fireworks. It's awesome to see both these women on the stage here.
It's a great main event too.
Another main event, co-main event that I'm amped about.
Yep.
The rematch of Fionn Davies versus Natalie Ribeiro.
Yep.
Fion's taken the last two of these, but they were a couple years ago, 2019.
And she hasn't been competing that much, where Natalie has.
Other than Combat Jiu-Jitsu a couple weeks ago, where she punched someone in the face and then won in 35 seconds. And I was like, all right, Fionn still got it, apparently. I didn't think she didn't still have it, but you proved me right.
Yeah. I mean, since pandemic times, Fionn hasn't really done too much.
A couple times. I think we saw it in Nogi Worlds.
Not as much as she was before, though.
She was all time. We saw her at Nogi Worlds. I think did she win?
I don't remember.
I
don't remember.
It's too late at night. Fion's looked great. Fion's always looked great. She's taken two over Ribeiro, again, a couple years ago.
But Natalie has looked really good recently, too.
She has looked
That's
really
what I was
good.
going for, is that Fionn hasn't competed as much in the past 2 years. Natalie has competed a lot in the last 2 years and has looked increasingly better. So I think this is a good time. Like, sometimes we see these rematches where it's like, they just fought 3 months ago and nobody's changed anything. But this is a time where these two haven't seen each other in a while. Their games have changed a lot, or there's some question about. I mean, I don't think Fionn is worse than she was. She's
I think
going to
Fionn
be just
has
as
added
good and
so many
or better.
tools in the last couple of years, too.
And we don't know what they are because we haven't seen them as much. So I think it's not that like, oh, one's gotten worse, one's gotten better. It's just we don't know where Fionn is, but we know Natalie's gotten better. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because of that. And it's a nice time to see the rematch.
It is a great time. I mean, again, I'm going to go with Fionn here.
Yeah,
just
it's hard
she's
to
taken
say.
the previous two, and I think her passing has gotten just insane. Like I foresee her getting around the guard. Like there are few people I think that can routinely retain the guard on her in a super fight scenario. And I'm looking for her to do that and implement that. She's also been teaching at B Team this whole week, or like off and
interesting.
on. Yeah, and so it's been hilarious to
That's
see her
awesome.
with Nikki Rod, and I was like, "That's cool." Like, oh yeah, you're in Austin for the week.
That.
Like, I bet we'll see a lot of people hop through that B Team gym because it's a pro gym in Austin.
Yeah.
You're like, and it's only doing pro shit, so it's like you're only gonna have pros in the room. And if you're in Austin for flow or flow grappling, like, well, you need a gym to train at. Go to the B Team gym.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see more footage come out because they're also super diligent with getting footage out of that gym, and it's awesome. Like on a daily basis. And somebody was talking about it a couple days ago. I don't know where I heard this, but like they'll film stuff like that morning, and it'll be like on Instagram like that even like afternoon.
Yep.
It's like they're super diligent on top of it. I forget who the filmer is or the videographer for that gym, but they have a guy, and he's just been putting
it's his
out
job to do that,
just putting out great content
and like content that is both good in terms of like these are technical things and content that
showcases the personalities of those guys.
right? And
awesome.
you want to see both those things because they're those the 3 or 4 of them that are really famous now are also pretty enjoyable personalities to watch.
Yeah, the B
right?
team
They're
guys,
funny guys.
It's like, would you want to? I was like, I'll drop it at B team. Why? It's like, I feel like it'd be a fun. I'd learn something and it'd be fun. Like it'd be a fun gym to go to.
Yeah.
So it's been cool to see Fionn and like she's in that and dynamics there, and it's just been fun to kind of see her personality showcased a little bit at the B team.
Yeah.
This week. Next match, we have a match I'm super excited about. We have Levi Jones-Leary versus Oliver Taza, and it's a nogi match.
Yeah, and we haven't seen much of Levi Jones-Leary recently.
No, and not in nogi. Like
Not
Levi is
nogi,
primarily
even in the gi. He recently hasn't done a ton. He's got a lot of skateboarding videos up on Instagram. I know that much.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Huh. I want to say you're wrong, but I can't offhand. I can't remember the last time. At least
Click
on
the
the
name.
podcast. That makes too much sense. There's not a clickable link with a database now. I see. We ran the show.
We're so used to not
We ran
having
the
it.
show for so many years. Subversiv 3 was the last big super fight
It's been a
event. He was
while.
at Worlds.
Worlds this year.
And he dropped to Hugo Marquez at middleweight.
But then other than that, it's 2020 Subversive 3, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It's been a while.
Okay, you are right.
Ha!
I'm wrong about that. This is a fun match because it's nogi. I think was Subversive 3 might have been in the gi, I think.
Yeah,
Spider
it was
was
gi.
in the gi, Abu Dhabi. Like, it's been a while since we've seen Levi without the gi. I'm very curious to see how he takes on Taza, because Taza is a straight up nogi guy nowadays, just coming off that win at ADCC Trials.
Taza's so hit or miss, though. You know, in these super fights in particular, he has really good runs at things like Trials and ADCC, but like in these super fights, he has been consistently inconsistent.
Yeah,
and I never really know. Like, he's obviously an incredible grappler with a very, very high skill level, and he's one of the best in the world at a number of very specific things. But when people take him off of that axis that he is exceptional at, he struggles a lot.
This is why I'm so interested in this matchup, because Levi Jones-Leary is a guy we literally saw get DQ'd for double pulling at Worlds. Like, he's another guy that's like, I do this thing. And even like we saw at Spider, like almost got WQ at Spider in the finals, and it was like that's $100,000 on the line. It's like Levi Jones-Leary
does a thing,
will do this thing, and there is nothing that will make him stop that. And Oliver Taza does a thing, and it's like, oh, neither of these guys are gonna like not do their thing. And so the dynamic of that match, I just have no idea how it's gonna go.
But we think that. But do we know that that's gonna be the case for Levi Jones-Leary in nogi?
And in 2021.
And in 2021, right? You know, there's a lot of questions open about this match. It's going to be exciting.
I'm honestly just super excited for this match for the stylistic match of it's like it has so many things that
what the hell do we even expect from Leary?
That's my point.
What is the style?
That's my point. Like, I love these kind of matchups because it makes me think about into a guy's game and into like there's the nogi aspect where it's like, okay, we don't see Levi a ton in nogi. He's facing a guy that exclusively does nogi. He's facing a guy that's exclusively on a hot streak right now after ADCC coming off that. Taza's also Levi's pretty big too. You know, they both have that super specific game, and they can both stick to that super specific game in spite of anything. It's like, I'm going to do this, and this is all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And like, you can't beat me here if you play this game with me, so you have to not play that game with me. And they're both going to play that game where it has so many of these pieces
there's a lot
where
of
it's
places
like,
it could go.
I have no idea where it's going to go. It could be a terrible match. It could be not a fun match.
It's going to go one of the way or the other. It's either going to end up being really exciting because they're both going to be showing how good they are at the thing that they do, or it's going to be boring as hell because neither of them are going to do anything substantial. I don't think that there's really a middle ground where you're like, that was an okay match.
I don't think there's either. Again, I hope, as always, that we get like both guys showing off and showcasing what they can do, which we definitely could. But we definitely get the other one too. But again, there's so many X factors. I talked about them. I'm excited for it. I love watching both these guys. And you know, it's cool. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
Next match, we have Mikey Musamechi versus Richard Alacon for a 135-pound bantamweight title. I don't know how this is gonna go. Like Alacon's a big 35er. Like Alacon's like a 45er that can make 35.
And Mikey just is coming off of a loss.
A quick loss.
Yeah, a quick loss.
Versus, was it Soda? Not Soda. Souza.
Yeah.
Via North-South choke?
I think so.
Yeah, North-South choke at Who's Number One. But again, Souza's much bigger.
It wasn't Who's Number... Was it Who's Number One?
It was the championship.
Oh, it was the championship.
It was the first round. And that was the big,
right.
like, other than the Gabby Garcia and Mandaleve match, it was everyone went,
upset.
What happened? That was why. Like, Mikey Musamechi submitted in the first round
Yeah.
by someone who's, not a super heavyweight.
Yeah. And I mean, that's uncommon, but also, again, Mikey is adapting to no-gi.
Mm-hmm.
He's
There's gonna be hiccups.
adapting to no-gi. There's going to be hiccups. People had not seen his game initially, so he had those two big wins.
He had one over Gio. He had one over Ocasio. He had one over Pinheiro.
And
he had one over Cohen.
Yes.
He had all those wins in a row over, the top of the top at the lower weights in no-gi. And then one's into Souza, who's a 55er, who goes, let's see, though, let's put the pressure on you. Let's not play your game. I'm not going to play jiu-jitsu with you. I'm going to pressure you. Alacon is a guy, he has good wrestling.
Yeah.
But we primarily know for like a lanky leg locker. And I'm curious to see, he's going to have a similar frame to Martinez. Again, not quite as big as Martinez, but I'm curious to see if this match will go in a similar way to the Martinez match, or if Alacon will be able to shut him down in the same way that Martinez did. I think Alacon's coming off of a loss to Damian Anderson at Emerald City Invitational.
I'm not sure.
So it's interesting. Both of them are coming off of losses. This is for the bantamweight title.
Yeah.
I want to favor Mikey here, just because it's someone much closer to his weight class.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take that loss and start discounting Mikey. I think I take Mikey on this one too.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if he can submit Alacon. I think if he does, it is with a leg lock. Other news. He's at Pedigo now. Or he's repping Pedigo. I think he may be at Pedigo. I don't know for how long. Dante Leone and Tammy Musamechi are also there now. We've seen Dante pop up.
Dante's been there.
He's been there like a little bit now.
But I mean, Dante's a good training partner for Mikey. I think Dante's bigger than Mikey for sure.
By a bit, yes.
By a lot. But I mean, it's not so unusual that, I mean, what, Dante's at 75?
Bro, he's 85 now.
Oh, he's at 85 now?
Dante's jacked now. You've seen his lifting videos? I don't watch any jiu-jitsu. I watched 2-3 people in jiu-jitsu lift. Dante is one of them.
Okay. All right, well, I thought he was still at 70, 75, and in that case, that wouldn't be that crazy. I mean, 80, 85 is not as much of a useful training partner, I guess, but
he's big.
He's big,
so,
much bigger.
I'm excited, but that's an interesting development if he's going to be repping Pedigo or with the Pedigo guys.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Mikey, there's a thread on Reddit that popped up. Basically, Mikey's jumped teams a lot. He almost has been at a different gym for the majority of his belts. He white the purple he was wearing, and he moved to AOJ, and he was at Atos, and then he was at Kaitera, and then he was at, he's jumped around a lot. It's not infrequent. I'm curious to see how long he is with the Pedigo guys. But it is definitely interesting news as of this week that moving into this event, he's going to be cornered probably by Dante or by Heath.
Yeah.
So that's a fun match. On the prelims, we have Jacob Couch versus Hunter Colvin. That's a fun one. Again, Jacob Couch coming off of that huge run with submission wins over Roberto Jimenez, and who's the other big one? He lost to Thor, and then he beat, who did he? I'm blanking on it.
It's been a long.
We get to William Tack via split decision.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it for third. He's riding the high horse. I'm very curious to see what new folds we're going to see from Couch's game. I think he's still going to go in with that nothing to lose mentality versus Hunter Colvin.
He still has nothing to lose.
No. I mean, Hunter Colvin's an established competitive black belt we've covered on the show for years. Colvin is a tough, very, very similar training philosophies to the Pedigo guys.
Yeah.
He's at Brothers Jiu-Jitsu. I think he's at Tri Sports. Triton, I think, is where he's at now. Very similar footage came out of that gym when I was following those guys much more closely, probably back in 2017 or 2018.
Yeah.
Very grindy sort of style with him and James.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun match. We know, again, both guys are super dangerous, hungry submission guys. We haven't seen Colvin on something we've covered in the recent past, but Couch is, coming off those huge wins. Curious to see how it plays out. Again, this is for me a coin.
It's also nice that it's just nice that they're giving him matches now. I think he stepped up and filled in. In who's number one last time,
he showed up.
And fucking showed up. I discounted him. I didn't think he was gonna do shit. I was like, oh, this guy's gonna, and I was fucking wrong.
Yeah. That's the most fun of jiu-jitsu though. When you're like, you have some preconceived notion about where a guy stands, and the guy goes am I gonna submit? You're like, oh, I was wrong. That's so exciting.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm and
on the train now.
He seemed there. I'm not a huge fan of
Daisy Fresh.
Just
Yeah, you and I kind of stand. You're very similar.
Like
for
I don't
similar reasons.
dislike them by any means, but I'm not as high on them as a lot of the jiu-jitsu community.
We've both been really broke before, and like I don't.
Yeah.
It makes me weird to watch it, like and watch those guys be really broke, and like it gives me weird feelings. About where I'm from.
I think I don't. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. But I don't dislike them. I'm not a huge fan of them, and so like coming into that, I was like, this kind of seems like maybe he just got this bid because he's Daisy Fresh and they have a series, and like Flo likes them, and they're trying to promote that, and then he fucking showed up, and I had to reevaluate and be like,
he can do it.
Oh damn it! Well, apparently he's actually okay to be here.
Yeah.
Like right.
Cool.
So I was happy about that, and he seemed in his interviews seemed like the nicest dude. So
yeah. That's awesome.
I can't be mad about it.
I like nice people in jiu-jitsu. It's awesome to have more of those.
So
fun match. Colvin's
it'll be a good
tough.
match.
Colvin's going to be tough to leg lock.
It'll be a tough match.
It's going to be a very tough match. Colvin's physical MMA fighter, with a jiu-jitsu thing.
And a fucking grindy dude in the first place. Yeah.
Very, very grindy dude.
And, Couch his leg lock entries are all in these like sort of medium space areas, and Colvin's not going to give him medium space areas. He'll have to either create them or...
I could see them both shooting out for legs. I can see them both just going on it, and that is honestly the match that I'm kind of super excited about because both guys are just brutal finishers from everywhere, and I'm very, very excited to see how that one turns out. Two other prelim matches. We have Brienne Ste-Marie versus Brie Robertson, and we have David Anderson versus Esteban Martinez. That's going to be fire.
Yeah,
people have finally figured out who Esteban Martinez is, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Giant killer, like that. The dude at Roosterweight that's just like gas tank for days. Now he's no-gi world champion. Like, I cannot wait. Like, that is a tough match for Damian Anderson.
Yeah, it is. But Damian Anderson's a veteran. That's had a lot of really good matches, and it's not... You can't write him off. It's a good match for Esteban in this particular scenario where he's now a known name coming into an environment where maybe he's going to get a lot more of these super fight matches.
It's a very fun match. I think
it's a smart matchup for both of these guys.
Yeah, and Anderson's going to be the bigger guy going in here, but Esteban has notoriously not given a shit and done absolute for years. And that's where I found him initially, was like purple belt doing absolutes as a legit like smaller rooster weight. And then like he's like, he's doing absolute. You're like, oh snap, like all the time. Yeah, you're like, oh, that's wild. So he's not. I don't think he will be put off by the size differential in Anderson. But
that doesn't mean it's not a factor though.
It does not a factor.
Yeah.
But it's always. I'm super excited for this dynamic of the match. Both guys are just going to go.
Yeah.
But I want to see more of Esteban Martinez. We've seen Damian Anderson repeatedly on Who's Number One. He's put up some great matches. I love guys debuting. Once, he took the world title in Nogi and IBJJF, and now it's like, cool. You're on Who's Number One. I like seeing progression in the sport and having guys be able to be showcased. It's awesome because I think Damian Anderson is a guy that's gonna be willing to run with him and run at that pace.
Should be a good
and
match.
Both guys hopefully can show off their game. So awesome on free prelims on Facebook and YouTube.
Yep.
That's always sweet. Where do you want to move on from here? Let's go to EUG Promotions third event. I wish they would name them or like. It's
event number 3.
Event number 3. We have a hell of a bracket here.
Yeah.
We got Gianni Grippo, Liam Hill. We have Diego Pato Oliveira. We have Gabriel Souza. We have Damian Anderson in this as well. Who's number 1 on a Wednesday, by the way?
Yeah.
I'm kind of about it, actually.
Yeah.
Like I'm as long as it doesn't run, till midnight. Like if they run, I hope it doesn't. If they run it like boom boom end to end 2 hours, it's not going to run that. But if it does, I will be absolutely like. Ecstatic.
It kills me that a lot of these things are on weekdays because like I would
weekends.
I'm sorry. No, that they're. I'm sorry that these things are always on weekends because like, do I want to watch Who's Number One? Yeah. Do I want to sit around and watch Jiu-Jitsu for 8 hours on a Saturday night? No.
Sometimes not.
Occasionally, but like most of the time, no. So then I end up watching them just by myself like a loser on Sunday, which is fine. Like that's okay. That's how Jiu-Jitsu has always been. But if these things were on like Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, I might actually like go and watch them with people.
Yeah.
Like, because then it's not killing my weekend. It's a thing that I can do for a little bit. I'm into it.
I might have folks over.
Yeah, I'm into it. I think it's a good idea.
It might be fun.
I like the idea.
We're halfway through the bracket and we stopped to make that tangent.
Yeah, sorry.
Damian Anderson. We have Kieran Kickchuck. We have I do not. He doesn't have a name.
Aquila.
Vinatora
Yeah.
and Daniel Morena. We also have a bracket for this one. We have a bunch of super fights as well on this. It should be a very fun event. Let me pull up the bracket here because I want to make some picks, Zach. I know everyone else on the Grappling Grind hates making picks, but I love making picks, so we're going to make picks.
So we're going to make picks.
First round, we have Gianni. Which, honestly, this is like the most fire matchup in the first round of the
It's
tournament.
a little weird that like Damian Anderson and Gianni Grippo are two of the people that I would like think are probably in the
you have
running
Gabriel,
to win.
so you have Diego Oliveira.
Yeah.
Sorry, and you have Gabriel Souza and Diego Pato on one side of the bracket.
I was just going with Grippo and Anderson are people that I could see winning this. They have a chance at winning this in my eyes, and they're together for a first match, like which is a little bit odd to me.
But it's gonna be fire, dude. I am so excited to see Grippo and Nogi. Like, dude has just showed like, yo, I can do Nogi really good now. I'm with the Meows, I'm with Stingray, I'm with all of these guys in Hoboken, just doing our thing, just getting.
And there's nothing else to do in Hoboken.
Ridiculously good at Nogi, and then changing my entire game and submitting people.
Yeah, I've loved Grippo forever, and I think that there was a point where he needed a game change. COVID things happened, things got mixed up. He went somewhere else. And
it worked.
It fucking worked. God. And, the dude has had a ton of potential and, like, good fundamentals, which is why I've always really liked Grippo. But there was a period there where he just wasn't winning.
Yeah.
And I kept saying,
and as a Grippo
I'm not
fan,
counting Grippo out.
It killed me because
I didn't like it either.
I constantly would pick him, and he'd be like, second.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you're so good. You're so close.
Yep.
And you see him, like, and it'd be like little things were like a tactical thing, or like one guy would just, like, be better in one little area, but so close.
He had a hard time finishing, too, right? It was a lot of things that he would, like, get up and then fizzle out in specific matches. But that's not happening now. He looks great, and I'm so happy that Grippo's back. Dude. I think Grippo has a great chance at winning this
Emerald
whole damn
City
thing.
Invitational, wins that, beats Kennedy in overtime in the finals.
It was huge.
He beats, I think, no, Kennedy fought Damian Anderson. I don't think he did. Did I have that wrong? I think we could look it up, actually. I should look that up, actually, because I realized that I thought he went against Kennedy, and he might have already went against Damian Anderson, and it was a super, super close overtime match. Yeah, he went against Damian Anderson. I had that wrong.
Oh, I was thinking Kennedy Masael.
Yeah, he went against Kennedy in the finals.
Yeah, in the finals. That's what I was thinking.
But in the match before that, he went against Damian Anderson, and it was a super. It was like Grippo looked really good, but it was a close match that ended up going to overtime. I'm curious in the points because IBJJ have points with no advantages.
Yeah.
Last person to score in a tie wins, which I love that rule.
Yep, me too.
Because it makes you have to be aggressive if you're tied.
Yep, I love it.
So it's a rematch.
That Damian Anderson's a rematch. Grippo also lost to Souza, not too recently, but he has lost to Gabriel Souza. He was on the other side of the bracket, but that was not this version of Gianni Grippo.
Hell no.
It was a different version of Gianni Grippo that lost. So I don't know. I think Gianni Grippo wins that again. He has already beaten him once. I'm not sure. Liam Hill and Kieran are on the bottom half of that side of the bracket, and I'm not
super familiar with
either of
those
those
guys.
two.
Again, given my familiarity with Grippo, and I think Grippo takes the whole thing.
I think Grippo takes the whole thing, too.
I'm going to say that Grippo takes that side of the bracket.
I think it's Grippo and Souza in the finals, and Grippo gets the rematch on that and beats.
I think Gabriel and Pato move on the other side of the bracket. That's a super fun match. It could be like a slower-paced match, but I feel like in the shorter time frame with EUG, that shorter match, like they're going to both open up.
Yep.
We've seen, again, Gabriel flourishes in those shorter matches, like the AJP-style matches.
Yep, he does.
Excited for that. It's Nogi.
I love the rule set for this. Yeah. I'm excited for EUG. My favorite rule set in all of professional jiu-jitsu at this point, I think.
It's very close, yeah.
Yeah.
Short matches, scoring, points, last to score, wins.
Yeah.
We've seen some slow matches here and there, but
they're much more rare, I think.
But they're more rare. Again, I'm big fan of what they're doing. I like it.
Love it.
Dude, Nogi, black belt GP, 155.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. Plus a bunch of good super fights. Moving on, we talked about who's number one. Let's talk about Third Coast Grappling, the Underdogs. We have a whole host of matches. I love what they're doing here. They're in Arizona. First time out of Texas for Third Coast Grappling.
Yep.
We have 16 guys, and we have a whole collection of folks that I am not super familiar with. Some guys that I'm adjacently familiar with, and then some guys where I'm like, that's a fun guy to see in a match.
Is that Oliver Taza?
That is Oliver Taza.
Well, he seems to not fit into this.
We have also Renato Canuto.
Oh, and
in
Canuto
here.
up there,
We
too.
have Pat down in here. We have Jake Shields in here.
But Pat Downey and Jake Shields make sense because they're like, right, if we're calling this underdogs and putting a bunch of people that maybe not everyone knows, like Jake Shields is an older gentleman at this point and an MMA fighter.
We have Andy Varela in here. We have Busari in here.
These are guys that are a little on the older side that have come and gone. That makes sense. Pat Downey is, you could call him an underdog because like he's not really a jiu-jitsu guy. He kind of got kicked out of wrestling for
a little bit. Some things.
For some things, right? And so, he's clearly a good wrestler, but also this transition to submission grappling where you can apparently get away with saying things a little easier, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's making the transition, so like I get it. He's a high level competitor.
Yeah, he's the highest level wrestler to ever come over.
Right.
Like hands down.
And
like,
will probably ever be. He'll probably be the highest level wrestler that ever transitions to. Canuto doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's
Canuto's who I'm picking. Honestly, he's a little on the smaller side versus the rest of these guys, but not that
much smaller.
Not that much. It's also 180, not 185. Which I thought it was a middleweight tournament, but it's a 180 tournament. So a lot of these guys, sit below 180 and pretty comfortably. Again, Taz is a guy that bounces in weight. Canuto is a guy that bounces in weight. Shields is a guy that I think will probably be cutting to make 180.
Well, we don't know where he stands now. He hasn't really competed
last time I interviewed him at Third Coast Grappling where he fought Hamla Bahal. In Bahal's last match. And like. Dude was 200 plus.
Oh shit!
Then, I mean, Bahal's a big dude.
Bahal's a big dude,
and so like Shields was big then. I mean, maybe not 200, but he was like, he wasn't 180.
Big enough to take that match.
He wasn't 180, and so I'm curious to see.
I don't know
what he looks like.
This will be interesting. This is a bracket set up for some wild.
Which I appreciate for Third Coast Grappling.
Yeah,
Third Coast Grappling,
good.
and Ryan has talked about it specifically.
And he runs a good show.
Yeah.
Just in general, he runs a good show. So even if these are completely predictable matches where the two guys that we think are going to win, at least it's like clean and smooth production, and I really enjoy that.
And it's exciting. But he also specifically goes like, look, these are the matches we want to see. We're going to bracket them in a way that we see these matches. Like, hey, is a first round match you want to see? Yeah, we're going to bracket it that way. Why? Because we want to see it, and we're doing professional grappling. It doesn't have to be by seed. It can be by, like, you're buying a pay-per-view for this. Yeah. It can be, what do you want to see because you're paying for it. And so I appreciate that mentality, and very few promoters will come out and say that, and I appreciate that Ryan McGuire of Third Coast Grappling, the matchmaker and president for Third Coast Grappling, came out and said that. Because, I appreciate that level of transparency, and I appreciate guys getting paid out, $10,000 to guys that are, I don't want to call them like, it's called the underdogs. Guys that are underdogs in most brackets.
They're underdogs except Taza and Canuto, who I think we have to end up picking because of their runs lately. But, this is a bracket set up for Taza and Canuto to lose spectacularly. Mm-hmm. Pat Downey versus Jake Shields would be a fun match to watch.
I'm curious. I think that's what we're going to get.
I don't know those other two guys. So
we've seen them.
Morelli. I've seen Morelli before.
We've seen both of them before.
Who's the other? I can't.
It's Alacon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. We've seen them all. We've seen all of the. I think there's only 3 guys that I haven't seen before here. But I can't pick their matches off in my head like super recently.
Well, it'll be interesting.
I'm curious to see if we do get Taza and Canuto in the finals, how that one plays out. If we're gonna see, we know what game Taza is gonna play, but if we're gonna see Canuto be able to shut it down in the way that he historically has done so in the past, or if we're gonna see Taza be able to get off and get firing on Canuto and have a Canuto in the finals be a little slower and be more willing to play into Taza's game there. Again, these brackets are super hard to pick. These guys are specifically underdogs. They're going to come out guns blazing, nothing to lose because it's called the underdog bracket, which is like, it's going to be exciting. It's going to create action.
Were we just talking about Taza on who's number 1?
Mm-hmm. Wednesday.
He's Wednesday and Saturday doing 2
Texas to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done that a couple times.
He's done that before. Yeah, but it's something to consider, right? Yeah. Like he's got a big fight on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then flies from Texas
Levi
to
Jones
Phoenix.
Leary, and then to fight a 16-man. But I think this is the 3rd time we've seen Taza do this.
Yeah, it's not unprecedented, right?
No.
People train like this. They train for these kinds of things.
I do like that Taza's on the grind. Like, hey, you won the trials. Cool. Next thing. Next thing. And that helps me because I know your game. I know what you're doing, and it puts my name in your head, and it helps you get more opportunities and more matches. So if you can continue to do it, Like,
Great.
I love seeing
Stay
guys
healthy, but-
stay active on that scene.
Yeah, love
So,
it.
going to be a great evening of events. We also have, just announced this week, BJJ Stars happening the 6th of next month. We have Dorino versus Roberto Jimenez. We also have some other great matchups on the card. We
Yeah,
have Hannah
it's good.
Daubra versus Lucas Garbetta. It's going to be a great card. We'll preview it more in depth as we get closer to it. We have Taquino versus Bruno Frazato. I think that's a rematch or a rematch of those two. But overall, going to be a fun week
Clever,
of grappling.
Luciano.
Yeah. He's done a
Clever
couple, I think.
Luciano.
He's done
and
a few stars
Vieira.
before.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
we have dudes, right? Yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll preview it as we get closer to it. That's it. I don't have anything else. It's going to be a fun event.
Yeah,
We have a break where we don't have everything on Saturday and Sunday. We have an event midweek. We have 2 events on the weekend, and everything's nice and spaced out. And I'm looking forward to a busy week where I may or may not make a trip across the country to go do some stuff and then come back. Got to figure that out still. Zach, what's your week look like? Anything fun planned?
Nothing fun. Just working. Trying to go to sleep. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to my bedtime.
Nice. So that's all I got. Recovering still from the surgery. Grappled a little more than I should yesterday.
Cool.
But I'm happy to be on the mats. It feels good to be back a little bit. So that's awesome. All right. I got nothing else, Zach. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Zach.
And we are the Grappling Reround. To see you on the mat, whatever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.